Good morning, and welcome to LLT 121. Sit around the fire and listen to me recount the ancient myths of yore. Today we pick up with the ultimate circle of myths of all Greco-Roman mythology, the Trojan War. The Trojan War, as I think I told you last time, starts when Paris, a prince from the award-winning city of Troy, which is over here. Ooh, I cannot draw a map of Greece that does not look like a Rorschach map of ancient Greece. You'll recall that Paris was selected to be the judge at a beauty contest, in effect, between Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite. Any person with any brains would refuse to judge a beauty contest between Athena, Hera, and Aphrodite. Zeus was offered the chance to judge this beauty contest, and he said, "No, I don't want to." So they found somebody really dumb. This guy named Paris, a Trojan prince. So as the story goes, Hera offered him power, Athena offered him wisdom, and Aphrodite offered him the most beautiful girl in the world. He picked Aphrodite, thereby angering Hera and Athena most severely. The only problem was the most beautiful girl in the world was married. She was Helen. She wasn't Helen of Troy yet. She was Helen of Sparta. She was married to Menelaus, king of Sparta. But apparently she wasn't a fanatic about it. Paris invited her to get on the love boat and sail back to Troy, which she did. She did that. Aphrodite made her do it. And Menelaus immediately runs to whine to his brother Agamemnon. The king of Mycenae. And this is where we get into, well, and Agamemnon launches 1,000 ships and we have the Trojan War. We'll get to that later. Right now, I need to give you some background on the award-winning city of Mycenae. Crystal.
Who was the king of that?
Agamemnon. Yes, I wrote him here, and I will also write him here. Okay. The Mycenaean saga is also known, the Mycenaean royal saga is also known as the House of Atreus, which is yet another misnomer because the award-winning Mycenaean saga actually begins in Asia Minor with a small boy named Pelops. Does anybody remember who Pelops' dad was? Phil, do you remember? His father's name was Tantalus. Tantalus was an ancient king who invited the gods and goddesses over for dinner and then tried to serve them Pelops for supper. Chopped him up into little bits. The gods and goddesses got very mad at him. I think Demeter took a bite out of the shoulder and said, "Yeah, this is human." They put little Pelops back together again with an ivory shoulder, and they sentenced Tantalus to stand in hip-deep water with a Bavarian cream donut tree over his head Whenever he reached up for a Bavarian cream donut, the branch retreated. Whenever he bent down to drink some of the water retreated. You remember that? Well, this is his son. Over here in Asia Minor, Pelops hears that the king of Elis, one Oinomaus. Now let's put Oinomaus over here. Actually, it's Oinomaus. That umlaut over the U does not mean that he is a heavy metal band. It means that they're to be pronounced separately. His name in ancient Greek means wine bag. King Oinomaus and his wife, Mrs. Oinomaus, had one daughter by the name of Hippodamia. I should point out that today when you say the word hippo, you normally think not of a horse, okay, but of a large river-bound animal with a thick hide. Do hippopotamuses have a big horn on their head, or is that a rhinoceros? It's a rhinoceros, okay. Oh, I remember, hippos are really cute, and they look like this, right? Unless you make one mad, in which case you look like this. Okay, I just drew a big flat circle. That's what you look like when a hippo steps on you. But hippo in ancient Greece really means horse. A hippopotamus is a river horse. Hippodamia means horse tamer, which is, I would suggest, a very nice name for a girl who rides horses and stuff. Well, at any rate, Hippodamia is their only child. Since only a boy can be the king, Hippodamia has to find herself a husband. King Oinomaus decides, I know what I'll do. I will start up a chariot race. Whoever wins the chariot race gets to marry my beautiful, she's beautiful, daughter Hippodamia, whose name means horse tamer. Anybody who loses a chariot race with me dies. Okay? So, King Oinomaus is riding a 13-race winning streak. He's got the fastest, hottest chariot in all of Elis. He has super wide performance tires on his chariot. Okay, like this. You know, they keep the tires on chariots in ancient Greece with a linchpin. The idea is that this little pin keeps the wheel from spinning off once the chariot gets up to ramming speed. Does that make sense? Any of you ever have a wheel go on a car while you were driving it? I have had this joy. So has my dad. Actually, the tie rod went for me, but my dad actually got to see his right front tire bouncing down the street after a brake job. It did about $2,500 damage to the 1975 Cordoba. This by way of foreshadowing. There are two versions of how it was that Pelops, I'll give it away, Pelops won. Pelops won. There are two versions of how it has happened. Version number one is intensely boring, and I will never ever test you on it. It was put forth by one of my probably my least favorite poet of all antiquity, this sniveling little snot named Pindar, who made money by sucking up to kings and writing poetry about wonderful kings like King Greer. You know, may you never drown in your beer. You will never know any fear, because I rejoice you are here. Pay me. That's the kind of poetry Pindar wrote. Pindar says that the god Poseidon just showed up and gave Pelops 6 special horses. Don't write that on any of your etiologies. I'll give you a very bad grade. As a matter of fact, I think if Pindar showed up in my class, I would flunk him for the sheer joy of flunking him. He is really a pain to read in ancient Greek. That's why I hate him so much. In version number 2, the interesting mythological version, Pelops bribes the charioteer of Oinomaus, a guy by the name of Myrtilus. Okay, bribes Myrtilus, the charioteer, to pull the linchpin on Oinomaus' chariot. And Oinomaus gets into the chariot. Myrtilus pulls the linchpin. The race begins. The chariots start going. The performance tire falls off. And Oinomaus is killed in a tragic chariot wreck. And since he is dead, he automatically loses the race by disqualification. And it looks like Hippodamia has a husband. As indeed they do. Okay, so Pelops marries Hippodamia. But this is ancient Greece. This is ancient Greek heroic legend. Whoever raises their hand and can answer this question correctly can put his or her head down on the desk and sleep for the rest of the hour or tell a bald joke or whatever. I want to see how well I'm teaching you people. What is this story lacking up to this point to really make things happen? Just don't say anything, don't blurt. Yes, Crystal.
Miasma.
Mark? We need some miasma. Miasma, or ritual impurity caused by killing somebody, is often a great motivating factor in Greek myth, in Greek legend, Greek tragedy, because it brings interesting curses down on entire families. It makes you travel to far-off foreign places where queens hit on you and monsters try to kill you and stuff. Yes, we need a little miasma. And so it turns out that Myrtilus, the guy who pulled the linchpin, thought he had a deal with Pelops. Myrtilus believed that he had the right of first congress with the would-be bride, that the favors of the aforementioned bride person should first be enjoyed by him. Needless to say, Pelops did not feel like sharing, and instead pushed Myrtilus off the walls of the city of Elis. You are ghoulish. And as he was being propelled backwards from the walls, Myrtilus yelled out, "My curse on you and your entire family!" A little cloud of dust rose up from where Myrtilus hit the ground. And unlike Wile E. Coyote, folks, you know, like Wile E. Coyote falls off a cliff and then an anvil falls on him and stuff, Myrtilus never gets up again. It so happens that Myrtilus is the son of the influential god Hermes. And so, his curse is duly registered and poured out like a bucket of dung all over Pelops, Hippodamia, and their descendants. I pause for a question. This curse, by the way, is one of the biggest doozy curses in all of antiquity, in all of classical mythology. It doesn't affect Pelops and Hippodamia. It really doesn't. Pelops and Hippodamia mingle in love and have two kids named Atreus and Thyestes. Atreus is married to a wonderful woman by the name of Erope. By and by, Atreus and Erope have two kids. We'll get there in a second. One day, a message comes to the city of Elis saying that the people of the city of Mycenae, which has just been founded, comma, are looking for a son of Pelops to be their new king. This, folks, is a big deal. You will recall that the period of Greek history from 1800 or maybe 2000 or some other time until 1200 BC is known as the Mycenaean Greek era, the Mycenaean Age. It is called the Mycenaean Age because the most important city in all of Greece during these days was Mycenae. I remind you not to think of Greece as a nation state of people who all spoke Greek. The idea of Greece was actually just a cultural idea at this time. You could find Greeks, so to speak, in mainland Greece. You could find them in Thrace. You could find them in Asia Minor. You could find them in islands. You could find them in Sicily and in Italy. The Greeks have a series of city-states, the city-state of Springfield, the city-state of St. Louis, the city-state of Sedalia, and so on and so forth, each of whom is a sovereign state. It's just that the king of Mycenae is the king, most kingliest king, and has the most influence over all of the other kings. He is the head king of all the kings, but what he is not is the absolute ruler of every corner of ancient Greece. Being the king of Mycenae means you are the most kingly king of all the ancient Greeks. So you can imagine how badly both Atreus and Thyestes would like to be king of Mycenae. Is this making sense? Josh, is this making sense? Ask me a question.
Well, I don't really have a question.
Okay, does anybody have a question? Mitch?
Yeah, didn't you say Mycenae just been built?
Oh, yeah, I was giving you a little historical background.
It had just been built. How was it that it was already such a powerful city?
It was destined to be such a powerful
They
city.
all knew that.
Yes,
That's why they wanted it so much. Okay.
I would guess so. Ray?
Is there a certain king of importance at this point in the period of time?
No, they're picking the new king. Mark?
Why did they want Pelops' son specifically?
Shut up. Josh?
That was my question.
I am not, you two may no longer sit together. The idea, because the story won't work any other way. Okay. Hit him. And word has it that the next day a golden ram will descend out of the sky. Why out of the sky? Why a golden ram and not a silver one? Why not a platinum ram? Why not a sheep? Why not 62 megabytes of RAM? Why didn't they get RAM doubler and get 2 RAMs?
Who sent it?
The gods. Zeus. And Pan was supposed to lead the ram to the tent of the person, the lucky brother who got to be king. And supposedly the deal was done. Supposedly the ram was to go to Atreus. Zeus had decided. But in the dark of night, Thyestes crept into his brother's tent while his brother was out and hornswoggled Europe, so that the next morning, guess who shows up with the ram? It's Thyestes. He talked Europe out of the ram, which she had apparently was taken care of for the night or something I can't remember and I don't even care about. The idea is that Atreus was supposed to be the guy who got the ram because Ray, He was the destined king of Mycenae. And he will get to be king of Mycenae, but what happened was this human named Thyestes threw a monkey wrench into the works by hornswoggling his sister-in-law. He wound up with the ram. So the next day, when everybody's out on the parade ground waiting for Atreus to come out with the golden ram, they all give him a golf clap. And he gets named king of Mycenae. Here comes Thyestes leading the ram. Supposedly, Zeus was so angry that he made the sun walk backwards in the sky. I pause here because, and we'll leave the sun in mid-sky heading backwards for a second, because I want to remind you of what a great scholar has said. Great scholar with a red beard and a slightly receding hairline. Legend, by its very nature, contains a kernel of historical fact. I'd like to ask one of our experts in the back row, does the sun ever go backwards? You ever see the sun go backwards?
No.
Me either. I mean, it doesn't. It always rises in the east and sets in the west. Does it every day, 24/7, right?
I guess.
No. When I'm right, you say, you're right. Oh. These kids nowadays. Okay, I'm right. I'm always right. Darn it. Can anybody think of a natural event, Phil? Okay. Go ahead, keep explaining, Phil. You're so smart. We'll see who's so smart on the final exam.
I don't know anything.
There's hope for you, Phil. The idea is that if you ever experience a total eclipse of the sun, the moon will pass. Here, let me draw a diagram. Here's the sun. The moon passes in front of it, and guess what? There's no light. You think, it's dark. The sun has set again. Then the moon moves away. It's bright again. And we don't have, astronomers like Phil here to tell us what's actually happening. So I say, the sun has stopped in its tracks and gone backwards. Back in 1800 BC, that's as good as an explanation as anybody can come up with. Let me tell you a very brief story about my own bad self that you can probably each come up with. In April of I had gotten a really nice watch from my dad for Christmas, Day 1986. Someday in April, I had this nice, expensive watch. I was walking through the 4th floor of the University of Iowa Libraries in beautiful Iowa City, Iowa, commanding a panoramic view of the beautiful Iowa River Valley. Okay, it's not beautiful, but it'll do. And I was walking towards a window when there was an enormous clap of thunder. Okay, and a bright, huge orange flash. It turned out that a lightning bolt had struck a transformer across the street. But that was afterwards. I flung my arms out and apparently bellowed at the top of my lungs, I'm told afterwards, "The gods are P blank 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 ED." Making quite a spectacle of myself and unfortunately utterly trashing the expensive watch that my dad had given me for Christmas. I took it to the watch shop and said, "You must have done a number on it." And I don't have it anymore. That was a long time ago. But I had, as a testimony, as a mute testimony, a watch that was smashed in at 7 p.m. on April 4th, 1987, to testify to me, if you've ever been caught in a natural occurrence, if you have ever seen, for example, a thunderstorm with snow, if you have ever seen a transformer get fried, if you have ever seen water rush up and flood a street, and, carry a truck away, you might recapture some of that sense of wonder that people walked around with all the time in the ancient world. It's not all that difficult to think, if there had been an eclipse, that the sun was going backwards, and from there it's a natural jump to somebody, some god or goddess is really very angry. Obviously, this story about the sun going backwards is a reference to a total eclipse of the sun. And as a matter of fact, scholars are able in some instances to determine dates, chronology, by one figuring out references to celestial phenomena such as these, and then interpolating, working backwards with the help of astronomers to determine when a particular eclipse visible in that part of the world could have taken place. It sounds silly, it sounds dopey, but there is a kernel of historical fact lurking there. Question, Carrie. I thought that was utterly brilliant myself. At any rate, Thyestes gets to be king of Mycenae. Suffice it to say, and we don't know, this part of the story is lost, so I can't even answer. Don't even bother asking me, Jeremy, because I don't know. Nobody knows. The way it comes, the way it goes, I don't know. But Atreus winds up being king.
He just died.
No, Thyestes is still... No, Atreus didn't die.
Thyestes.
He,
didn't die?
no.
He just stole the ram back. Yeah.
Oh, okay, he just stole the ram back. I don't care. But Thyestes is very unhappy now because he's out stalking in the woods. You know, it's good to be king. It's bad when you're not king. And Atreus, just to let bygones be bygones, just for some reason or another, says, Thyestes, come on over for dinner. I'll fix you dinner. Yes, guess what's for dinner? That's not a bad guess, Farrellyn. It's not a good guess either, but it's not bad. Where did you come up with that?
It's in the family line.
That's what happens. Atreus serves Thyestes his own kids for supper. But that's what happens. My God, you're learning to think like a writer of ancient Greek mythology. Yes, and it does run in the family. You were right on all counts. Atreus serves Thyestes his kids for supper. Thyestes is so disgustipated, he rushes out into the woods and marries his daughter Pelopia. Very funny. And they have a kid named Aegistheus. More about whom later. Why are you laughing?
Because you said he's so disgusting, so he runs up and grabs his dog. Wouldn't that even be more disgusting?
Well, any of you geniuses are welcome to write an etiology explaining why it happened. At any rate. Yeah, the first non sequitur you've caught in all mythology. That's pretty pathetic if we've been having class for 4 months and you catch one non sequitur. Wake up. Atreus and Europe are cursed. This curse of Myrtilus is passed on from Pelops to Atreus and Europe, and it's going to be passed on to Agamemnon and Menelaus also. Jeremy?
Agamemnon and Menelaus were the children of Atreus and Europe, right?
Yeah.
So they had other kids that they fed the Thyestes?
No, they fed Thyestes' kids to him.
His own kid?
Thyestes' own kids. Yes, and I know what you're going to say.
No. I thought you were saying that Atreus chopped up his own kid.
No. See, Atreus, I think, was smarter than his grandfather. Tantalus. Tantalus tried to chop up his own kid and feed him to the gods. Why not chop up Your brother's kids. Why not chop up your nephews and feed them to people? Yeah. Fairlyn?
I thought he was having a dinner to make up with his brother.
Well, if you don't like that version, I'm sure Jeremy or Mark can come up with something better after class. Please be quiet. Meanwhile, in ancient Greece, in ancient Sparta, in a matter of fact, there is a lovely young woman by the name of Leda. Whoa, 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 whoa. Very pretty young woman who draws the attention, shall we say, of no less an individual than the cosmic swinger himself, Zeus. Zeus, in order to achieve consummation of his full-throated desire for this young woman, hornswoggles himself into the, I can't draw these birds to save my soul. These are supposedly very graceful birds, a swan. And when the fulfillment of their love is complete, when the consummation has been achieved, he puts his wing around her maybe, lights a cigarette, and 9 months later, the normal period of gestation for humans, this woman, Leda, gives birth to 2 eggs. Why not? Now you're getting the right attitude. Why not? In one egg, there is a little girl named Clytemnestra and a boy named Castor. In the other egg, there is a boy named Pollux and a girl named Helen. Pollux, the boy Pollux and the girl Helen, are immortal. They get that from their dad. Clytemnestra and Castor are mortal. They're humans. They'll die. They get this from their mom. Castor and Pollux, a nice story about them is they go off on all sorts of heroic adventures together. Even though Pollux is immortal and Castor is mortal. One day, Castor gets killed in some brawl or something like that and dies, as people will normally do in these circumstances. And Pollux is so distraught that he makes a deal with Zeus. Says, I tell you what, I can't stand living forever while my brother is dead. Why don't we be together as dead people one day and be alive together the next day? And Zeus grants them this wish. It's really sweet. I know, because if I can just imagine what my little brother would say, if I died. That's what he would say. Not really, but this is really sweet. This is what you tell your kids, right? They loved each other. So, you guys ever get in fights with each other?
Yeah.
Good. Good. My brother and I used to fight all the time, too. Now he has 2 little boys, and guess what? They fight all the time. I know. But these guys like each other so much, it's weird. And Helen is really beautiful.
What did they ask Zeus if they could be together one day alive?
Yeah, exactly. One day alive and one day dead. Yes, none of this 1 week up, 1 week down or flex time arrangement. This is ancient Greece, Mitch. Clytemnestra gets married to Agamemnon. Because Agamemnon's the older and therefore the smarter of the two. And therefore the better. Okay. And so Menelaus gets the hotter looking babe. Helen. Helen is so beautiful. Everybody wants to marry her. Everybody thinks she is just the hottest babe in all the Greek world. Supposedly, all of the suitors, all the guys who sniffed around Helen, were compelled to swear an oath that whatever lucky dog gets to marry Helen, if anybody ever steals Helen, will help him go back and get Helen. I pause for a question here. Good. Yeah. Now here's the action. Menelaus one day is off on a business trip. Paris comes knocking. Remember, Aphrodite has promised him the most beautiful girl in the world. And it turns out to be Helen. Helen and Paris go off to Troy. And here's what happens. Menelaus comes whining to his big brother. Says, and Agamemnon gets ready to kick butt. He calls all the Greeks together, and I'll give you more of the details about that later. There's only one problem. How beautiful is Helen? She is so beautiful, her face launches 1,000 ships. And these poor Greeks are all in their boats, just boatload after boatload of manly Greeks, bottled up in the port of Aulis in their boats, waiting to go kick Trojan tail all over the Mediterranean, but they can't get out. They can't get out because the wind won't blow. The wind won't blow because some goddess or god is angry, the way it always was back then. It turns out that the goddess Artemis is mad because of a botched sacrifice. Apparently, they sacrificed to all the other deities except for Artemis. Yes, Crystal, I know that's lame. It's a plot device. If you can make up a better one, have at it. In order to let the ships get out, in order to make Artemis happy again, supposedly, Agamemnon is required to sacrifice his daughter Iphigenia. Agamemnon and Clytemnestra have 3 kids. A boy named Orestes, a girl named Electra, very complex young woman, and Iphigenia. Agamemnon is, yes.
Is Orestes who Theseus Orestes who?
We're getting there, dude.
Okay.
Yeah. We are, or I'm not. Agamemnon is in a horrible dilemma. He has a choice between 2 alternatives, both of which stink. Today we would call it a no-brainer. Today any daddy who loves his little girl is obviously going to say, no, I am not going to kill my daughter just so we can go out and get my sister-in-law back from these bums who stole her. I mean, I'm a dad first and king of the kings of Greece second. Might be sorely tempted sometimes, but no, I am not going to kill my child. But as we are going to find out, that Greek social mores, Greek social customs of this time are based on the following code: death before dishonor. We're going to find out that ancient Greeks judged men in these days not by how nice we are and how many times we helped a little old lady across the street or bought a bum Thanksgiving dinner. Rather, it's the number of times you kicked butt. It's like the Wild Wild West, the number of times that somebody messed with you and you made them pay. That's what glory and virtue are measured in. And Agamemnon, on the one hand, he killed his daughter. On the other hand, if he does not kill his daughter, that means that the ships will never get out of the port of Aulis. Pardon? Mark, you're annoying me. Of course. But the dilemma is so much better if they can't. The road is long with many a winding turn. But if he doesn't kill his daughter, he will be branded forever as that wussy who wouldn't even go to Troy to get his brother's wife, when all he had to do was kill a mere female child. What a wimp. Long after his death, they will remember him as King Agamemnon, the wimp, who let other people push him around. Oh, you're Orestes, son of King Agamemnon, the wimp. Yes.
I just find it interesting how the greatest ancient Greek epic is all centered around
Is all centered around?
a woman.
Well, it is and it isn't. It's all about dumb things men do to other men because of women. So there. But yeah, it is. It's a hoot. It's a hoot. More on which later. Of course, it's a no-brainer for Agamemnon because he is so imbued, so steeped in this quote-unquote Greek heroic code, death before dishonor, that he sends his daughter Iphigenia a telegram saying, Iphigenia, Achilles has asked me for your hand. Achilles, hottest stud of all the Greek heroes, most eligible bachelor in all of ancient Greece. And poor Iphigenia, she packs up her hope chest and says to her mom, Clytemnestra, Mom, I'm so happy. And reports to Aulus where her dad kills her. And the ghoulish, the wind picks up, and the boats all skitter off to Aulus, sail off to the Trojan War. Who won the Trojan War? There were no winners in the Trojan War. Everybody lost. Another truism of history, another kernel of historical fact lurking in these legends, and remember that legend, by definition, contains a kernel of historical fact, is that while the cat's away, the mice will play. We need only look to, let's say, how many of you in this room were alive during the Second World War? Okay. At the turn of the century, say 1900, it was graven in stone that men worked and women stayed home, God bless you, and took care of the house and took care of the babies. During the First World War, men were sent off to fight in Europe, and women started working in the factories and doing the jobs that replacing the men who went off to war and got killed by the hundreds of thousands in this ridiculous war. The process was repeated during the Second World War in the United States and elsewhere, as just about any man who could hold a rifle and point it at somebody bad found himself fighting in either the Pacific or in the European front. Somebody had to build the guns, somebody had to build the tanks, somebody had to keep the United States of America going while the able-bodied men were off fighting, so the able-bodied women got jobs. They found out that women are good at building tanks. Women are good at building planes and shells and running trains and doing everything that the guys were doing. The men came back from the war and said, okay, girls, let's get back to the house, skitter off and fix me some supper and fetch me a beer. I'm ready to go back to work. Many of these women thought, wow, I like getting a check with my name on it. Many of these women figured, hey, I'm pretty good at this job and I like it. My mom can watch the kids. I'm going to go work. We set up a new social dynamic, yada, yada, yada. But the thing I want to focus on is just because the men are going off to war doesn't mean that all life stops back on the home front. Not true. It wasn't true during the Second World War. It was not true during the Trojan War. While Agamemnon and his manly men are off fighting before the walls of Troy where men win glory, life has to go on back in Greece. Clytemnestra, Scott. Are you Scott? Scott, number 80. How would you react if you were Clytemnestra? Okay, is there anybody you'd be upset that he left? How about the kid? You humanitarian? Would you be a little ticked? Slightly miffed that, the husband killed your kid? Scott, if you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you'll have to get past 5 women before you get out the door. And I wish you luck. I'll give you a hint. She's mad. Very, very mad. Not only that, who's her dad? She's nobody's baby. She's nobody to mess around with. While the cat's away, the mice play. Clytemnestra, here's what she does. She sets herself up as ruler of Mycenae. Oh, sure, she starts having a relationship on the sly with that draft dodger Aegisthus. But as we're going to find out, Aegisthus isn't calling the shots. He's just like some guy. He's just like Madonna's husband, you know what I mean? Clytemnestra is ruling the award-winning city of Mycenae for 10 years while Agamemnon is gone. And you can guess how happy Clytemnestra is to see Agamemnon come back from the victorious and heroic war. As I've tried to get through to Scott here, she's been nursing a grudge for a while because he slaughtered their youngest daughter in order for his men's night out, go off and pillage Troy. And she's also found out that she likes being the queen. She likes bossing people around. She's good at it. She's got this dweeb of a boyfriend, that she can order around. And all of a sudden, she gets word. The Greeks have won the Trojan War. The lordly great Agamemnon is coming back. And she busies herself to make the correct preparations to welcome home her lord and master, Agamemnon. Agamemnon, she says, you're home. I missed you, Stud Muffet. You're a little gamey. You're my hero, but why don't you come on in and take a nice bath? And Agamemnon, and we're going to leave him there for your entire vacation, is standing there looking at the door. Clytemnestra's looking pretty good. Been a while. Paws at the ground and goes in. See you next time.